G'day, Couch Critics. How you going, Brad?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Could be worse in lockdown.
Yeah, well, it's a bit of a different way for us to be joining together. We're catching up over Zoom because last time we caught up in person, a whole regional lockdown got called. So we're back together and we're going to be chatting a couple of different things about Aussie football. And we're kind of excited to announce that we're going to try and launch this as a podcast. So you could be watching this on YouTube, but you also could just be listening to Bradley's dulcet tones in your ears for the next 45 minutes or so.
Lucky you.
We hope you enjoy this. If you're more of a podcast listener, hope this hits the spot. So we're going to change up the format a little bit just to match that podcasty kind of theme. And so we're going to start off chatting some hot topics in Australian football at the moment. We've got a couple of little topics we'll talk about before we do our deep dive into our main topic for today, which, as we kind of flirted with last episode on YouTube, we're going to be chatting about an Australian national second division. So get ready for that. That's coming up later in the episode. But Bradley, first we're going to chat a couple of other hot topics. Firstly, just FFA Cup. Since we last talked, a fortnight ago, and we talked about the FFA Cup fairly in depth, there's actually been some movement.
Yeah, from the sounds of it, I think it was on Friday. I think it was Friday they announced it yesterday, so that would have been the 27th of August. They announced that we're going to get some games underway, mainly all the games in the Queensland section of the draw, and a couple of WA games versus South Australian games. Obviously, those states been pretty well managed, or just lucky enough they haven't been affected by COVID. So we're going to get those games underway, which is exciting. The first one, I believe, is going to be the Peninsula Power against Brisbane Roar on September 14. So hopefully that'll be a well-attended game. Actually, it's the home. They're going to be playing at the home ground of both teams. Peninsula Power from Redcliffe and Brisbane, who's been based in Redcliffe. I don't know if it's actually Peninsula Power's regular home game. No, it's not Peninsula Power's regular home ground, but they both play in Redcliffe. So hopefully the locals will get around it and check out some live football for the first time in a couple of months.
And the real exciting thing is that there's the potential for it to be on 10 Play. But it is 10 Play that they're going to be showing this, not well, I've seen some other things, and we'll talk about it later about the Socceroos, but it looks like 10 Play will be the first place they're going to stream these things.
So is that the app? Is that the online website to watch Channel 10?
Yeah, I think that's the online kind of 10 Play is their online kind of place. Interesting. I thought Paramount Plus would be the place for all this as well, but there's no football content on Paramount Plus as of yet.
There's some great content on Paramount Plus. I watched a fair bit of Cat Dog and SpongeBob, all the classic Nickelodeon shows I watched as a kid.
Yeah, look, it's okay if you're a kid. Yeah.
But the football will be there. I'm assuming it will come.
That's the reason we've got it, isn't it?
And it's on Channel 10, so we can't complain. It'll be picked up. It probably won't be on the main. Well, maybe the final will be on the main channel, but these matches might not be. So you say they're going to be on the streaming website. So at least it's getting some coverage.
We can watch it, and there's other good stuff about 10. Paramount have kind of started to list their commentators and some of the pundits for the upcoming Socceroos match. Otherwise, with the FFA Cup, it is good that FFA, or the FA, sorry, they've committed to the FFA Cup for this season. So it is going ahead. We were kind of worried that maybe they might can it, but it looks like they're going to try their hardest. It's going to be a late start for the New South Wales teams, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're not talking about getting out of certain lockdowns when we hit that 70 to 80% of vaccination rates, and that's not till October, November. So I can't imagine those teams playing anytime soon, considering they haven't played a game for a couple of months now. So they might play their games maybe in January or something, or maybe December if they can push it. That's if, and it seems like we will hopefully be getting out of lockdown with those vaccination rates. So yeah, it will be a later start, and obviously they won't be able to start the round of what's after the 30th, the round of 16. They won't be able to start that till well into next year. All the first round is completed.
It's gonna lead to a little bit of fixture congestion, I think, for A-League and for NPL teams when they kick off again next season. So it'll be interesting to watch. Hopefully, Peninsula Power, do one on the Raw and kick off the FFA Cup in style on 10 play. That'd be great to watch.
It would be the dream.
Some other kind of hot topic news is, well, we're recording this. It's 1 o'clock on Saturday, the 28th. The Socceroos squad is going to be announced at 5 o'clock this afternoon, and for the upcoming qualifiers. And there's been a bit of controversy about the proposed kind of places we're playing and further down the line. What do you think of mandatory tracking, Bradley?
Of what? Sorry.
The wrist trackers for.
Oh yeah, there's the concept Football Australia put to the government saying, we'll make sure our players wear GPS or whatever trackers. You know what? If they agree to it, good on them. But I don't think we need to be going to these lengths to let our footballers play in the country. I mean, they're already, I imagine, the ones based in Europe are getting checked for COVID, several times a week. If this game was to happen, it would have so much extra protocols and safety measures to put in place to make sure there is absolutely no interaction between the players and the fans. And I'm confident they'd pull it off. I mean, we held the Aussie Open quite successfully in Melbourne at the start of the year. I think there might be one or two, but, that was a massive group of tennis players that came over. We're talking about 30 footballers and, maybe another 15 odd staff between two teams. It's doable. And, I think, we've got a big campaign, a really tough campaign to qualify for the next World Cup. We've got to play Japan. We've got to play Saudi Arabia and China. None of these teams we've got to push overs. And having that home ground advantage just gives us that little bit extra going forward to win the game. And it's going to be hard playing, in the middle of the desert, with no fans there in Qatar. It's going to be hard. And, I think we're not going to have a lot of our local domestic players. I think Matthew Leckie, there was a story in the Sydney Morning Herald. He's already made it clear that just with his situation, he's not going to be able to commit to doing the quarantine. He's got a German wife and two kids that just moved to Australia, and he doesn't want to leave his wife alone for, a couple of months, which I understand. I understand that. Yeah,
we kind of forget the big sacrifice that these guys make for our entertainment. A lot of them don't see their families. We think about the A-League seasons that have just kind of happened, and the time they spent away from their families because everyone went to the hub. The New Zealand players who spent the whole season in Australia away from family and friends, and that's huge. That's a huge kind of ask for them. So I think we kind of forget that. So, Leckie, that's his choice. Some of the others, though, with the other measures of all the players will be vaccinated according to, this proposal by the FA. That rules out, Jimmy Troisi and Mitch Duke, who are, posting stuff all over their Instagrams about not taking the vaccine. I don't want to dive too deep into that. Do what you want. But it is just interesting that they're pretty much.
And without diving into it, we're not professional scientists or doctors. I think people spend their whole lives doing it. We've been told very clearly by these people it is safe. And so if James Troisi and Mitchell Duke, professional footballers who've probably never done a day of life of science, good on them. Yeah, absolutely good on them. But I think our government has set a interesting precedent when it comes to vaccine making priorities over athletes. So I think the rugby team at the start of the year, when they toured Europe, they were prioritized to get the vaccine. Same with our Olympians when they went to the Olympics. So I think the government has set the precedent, and I don't see any reason why our local Socceroos shouldn't be not shown that same favoritism. Whether you agree with it or not, with them jumping the queue, the government's already done it for the union and the Olympics. I'm not sure about the cricket.
Yeah. just another chance for soccer to get shafted in Australia. But that is what it is. But the upcoming games for the Socceroos, we've got China next week. Is it next week? It is next week, isn't it?
Next Friday.
Next Friday, and then a couple of days after that, are we playing against Vietnam?
I think that sounds right. Yeah, the China one will be on the Friday morning about 4:30. It's going to be in Qatar, so that was going to be our home game. I think they originally put it down for Bankwest, but obviously that couldn't happen. So I don't know why they just try and move it to Perth or something where COVID's not too much of a problem. But yeah, I mean, we're not at home. It's going to be tricky.
Yeah. Thinking squad, obviously the squad will get announced this afternoon. So by the time you're hearing this, we've probably got it wrong already. But no Matthew Leckie, at least to start. That's a big loss for the Socceroos.
I think he's been named our new captain as well. So,
and what he adds up front, he really does have that pedigree. He can score goals. He's kind of transformed himself into this number 9 for the Socceroos. That's disappointing. I'm hoping to see Awa Mabil kind of get a start for the Socceroos. I think he's been fantastic for Midtjylland at the start of the season, and he just always plays, 100% for Socceroos. He works so hard. I'd love to see him feature, and pretty good to see Tom Rogic in a bit of form under Ange Postecoglou. Of course, this Sunday night, big game, the Old Firm derby. That's a huge one for Ange, but it's been really nice to see Rogic playing well, and Mitch Boyle as well over in Scotland. He's been on fire at the start of the season, so that bodes well for Australia's kind of front line. Our strikers are hitting form overseas, which is really cool.
Yeah, and I wonder if Jamie McLaren will get picked as well, because he's another in-form striker. Well, I mean, he's always been in form when he's playing. And whether he commits playing to Socceroos with all the quarantine he have to do, that'll be interesting. If he gets a run or not. It's be tough ask to miss the first couple of months of the A-League, and he's just so valuable to that Melbourne City team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's definitely worth being included in the squad. The midfield, I don't know. Aaron Moy kind of stepped back from the last international window because he hadn't spent much time with his family. I wonder if he's going to be back in. I'm hoping he definitely adds something, and we're going to need his creativity and his just calmness in the center of the pitch in these big qualifiers. I think we can't afford to not have him there. And Graham Arnold knows that, I think. The back line could be interesting as well. Milos Dejanek, of course, he's really solid and playing good football in Europe. But who's your pick for partnering him at centre back?
Oh gosh, you pick me on the back line. I'm never any good with the back line. I know that not in the back line though. We'll be missing probably Ryan Grant as well at left back, right back, whatever side he's on. I'm not quite sure you're partnering.
I mean, Harry Suter has been good for Stoke. He started well. He really is maturing as a centre back. Plus, he's just big and dangerous. Like, he's a good option. Trent Sainsbury's, he's a decent centre back. Has he really played good enough football recently to get a starting spot? I don't know. I mean, there's some others who are in contention. Curtis Good, you've got to chuck him in as a possibility, and Ryan McGowan, who's playing in Q8 now, so he's nice and close to drop over to the Socceroos squad. They're all options. It'll be good to see Frank Karacic get some game time again for the Socceroos. He was great in the last couple of qualifiers. So yeah, it's going to be interesting.
I'll be interested to see in the next year or so whether with Matthew Sporanovic, if he gets good game time and if he starts performing at Melbourne Victory, because I think when he was I think he's been out without a club for a long time. When he was playing, he was probably one of our best options in the back line. But obviously no game. You can't, no game time the past year or so. You can't just pick him. But I'll be very interested to see how he goes in the next year and a bit. Because he's definitely in the future someone that could put his hand up and get a spot in that back line.
And I think that's why he's moved to Melbourne Victory under Tony Popovich, who loves a solid defence. If he can have a good season, he puts his name right in contention for the World Cup next year.
Yeah, and he came back to the Wanderers under Tony Popovich and had a great season, and then he went off overseas again and probably didn't turn out the best for him, but he's back, and I really hope he has a good season.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing is before the World Cup, there's plenty of chances for A-League players to put their hands up and put their name in contention for a World Cup spot. We saw so many of those players play at the Olympics and really have fantastic campaigns. Nathaniel Atkinson and Denny Jonro definitely stand out in there as people who could maybe sneak their way into a Socceroos squad over the next 12 months. So that's exciting to see as well. Yeah. That's kind of Socceroos news. And I guess it might be worth just having a little hot topic chat about 10's kind of first announcement of pundits for the Socceroos game. So Simon Hill is back. He's finally back, and you can go and have a watch of our conversation we had with Simon. We might put that in the comments or in the description of this video. But we had a chat with Simon Hill, and it's fantastic to see him back with Paramount.
It's probably the worst kept secret. Like it just had to make sense for him to go there.
Yeah, absolutely. Some other interesting names. Mark Milligan, after his retirement, he's popped into punditry, and Alex Brosk as part of the group. Bruce Jide as well.
Yeah. Andy Harper's there as well.
Yeah, Andy Harper. We've been watching some fantastic videos of Andy Harper's
Harperisms.
Poetic language.
They call them Harperism. They're really like I've never really noticed it before. And then I watched that video. I was like, you know what? He's pretty quick on his feet with some of those lines he pulls out. I'm looking forward to it. And I think when he was commentating with Hill, I think they work really well together, and I think we'll have no problem with them. I think they'll be great commentators, and we'll get our first taste of them next Friday morning, I assume.
Yeah, and I think they're gonna take the lead on the Socceroos games. Would be my guess. It's going to be great to listen. We can turn our volumes back up for Socceroos matches and for A-League again.
I don't think Brenton Speed was that bad. People made him out as the worst thing. I think he's a good commentator. I don't think of course he's not Simon Hill, but he's a handy commentator. He's quite versatile, but
great in the big
I don't think he blows my socks off, but I don't find too much problem with him.
You can call a goal, absolutely, but when there's nothing happening on the pitch or just general play, I'd prefer someone else. But
I would have who's that commentator? I think he works for Channel 7 in Adelaide, but he does some Fox Sports stuff as well. Can't think of his name. Cornwaith, Robbie Cornwaith, I think.
Oh, Cornthwaite, yeah.
Yeah, he was. I didn't mind him as a commentator, but probably because Channel 10, Channel 7, he's not going to be joining up anytime soon. But I think he'd be a good option to look at in the future for Channel 10.
Yeah, absolutely. There's plenty of budding journalists and commentators around there who hopefully Paramount give a shot over the next couple of seasons.
Did Archie Thompson get picked up?
I think he did.
Oh, good joke.
I don't remember. I should check that out. But I love Archie. I think he's fantastic.
Oh, he brings a great character to it. But,
some good moments. If anything, he should be on the kind of late night fun show. You put him and Bozza together.
The PG M-rated footy show for the A-League.
It'd be fantastic. Okay, our last little hot topic, I guess, chat before we really dive in, because we're 20 minutes into the episode already.
Very good. Yeah, we'll try and keep this part of the show. Maybe we're just all talking about hot topics today. Maybe we'll try and keep it short and sweet, but might be a bit hard. But anyway, let's go.
Yeah, so and this is going to launch us into our main topic, expansion. We've had a season of 12 teams, and it was great not having a bye.
I feel like a bye. The draw was all over the place.
It was all over the place.
But in a normal draw, yeah, six games a week, that's great.
We're going for 12 again this season, but there's been some murmurings in the past. Maybe there's some more expansion in the pipeworks, in the pipelines. Canberra, is it going to happen, Bradley?
Oh, it seems like it's all but done. From the brief rumours we've heard, and I think probably no news from what they say is good news. I think there's a lot going on under the scenes.
They're all being a bit coy on it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily know why you have to be so uptight about it. I think in Simon Hill's podcast with Craig Moore, I think he was somewhat involved with Canberra, and he was very tight-lipped about it. He didn't want to say too much about it either. I don't know, talking to the media about it, how that could potentially affect Canberra getting a team or not, but I feel like it has to be. If we're going down an expansion route before a national second division, it just seems like it has to be Canberra. Anyone else, that beats them to it should be robbed for, thieving in public like that. Like it just has to be. Before. Yeah, like it just has to, like it just has to be Canberra. I feel like if for our next expansion spot, and it seems like it's going to happen, but it just, people involved are very tight-lipped, and I don't know why, but
yeah, it's interesting though. What are your thoughts if we do add Canberra, let's say for the 2022-2023 season, so the season after the next one, should it be a 1 or should we go for 2 straight away again?
I'd like to. Depending on the situation, I think going 2 straight away is good. I think with what we did with MacArthur, Western United coming in first and then MacArthur, I think that was done wrong. I think it should have been MacArthur first. They were ready to go. They had the stadium. They probably better set up ready to go and then give Western United that extra year. They definitely felt like they needed an extra year. But I still think, 2 at one time would probably be preferable. But if there's no one knocking on the door, like Canberra, I wouldn't stop Canberra joining if there's only one team. But I think the preferable option would be to find another team, because that's 7 games a week when we get to 14 teams. And
yeah, absolutely.
I've heard some whispers and rumours about Gold Coast, and we all know Gold Coast was. I wasn't necessarily against Gold Coast coming in. I think looking back, North Queensland was probably the bold option, but Gold Coast, it was just the owner. We all know what Clive Palmer's like. He's just an eccentric character, and if we get a Gold Coast team that has a fairly normal owner that's committed to the area, I think it'll work. They've got a good sized stadium, probably a little bit too big for them, but 20,000 seater stadium, that's pretty good, I think. And if they can build a rivalry with Brisbane, there's not a lack of footballers in Gold Coast. It's a growing city, and there's a lot of footballers there, right next to Brisbane. I think it would be a good option, but Canberra's got to be the next one, and who that second one, if we get a second one to join them, there's a few options.
I definitely don't think there's a lack of interest for another spot. I think Football Tasmania are definitely vocal about their desire. I think you've got places like Brisbane where they're kind of they want another Queensland team, whether it's Ipswich, whether it's Gold Coast, or whether it's another team in Brisbane. There's definitely some desire there.
And Wollongong as well.
There's definitely options to go to, double barrel straight into that next expansion kind of period. But that is going to take us on to our main topic for today, and we're going to chat maybe a bit more in length now, because expansion might happen, but the AAFC and FA have had a meeting to chat about potential national second division ideas for next year, the year beyond, and that started roll. So let's have a bit of a chat about second division. If it happens, how should it happen? Is it worth doing? Is it going to be good for football? Because there's still, I think the jury's still kind of split on this. I think lots of people say, yes, we need a second division. It has to happen. We're miles behind. We need this. But I actually think there's still quite a big crowd that say, no, it's not viable. Don't do it. It's going to kill Australian football. Where do you sit, Bradley? Firstly, like, should this be a conversation that's happening now? Is it the right time?
When is the right time? That's the question. When is the right time? I think, the right time is now. I mean, if you want it to happen, you can't keep postponing it. 5 years ago, they say, oh, it's not the right time, give it a few years. Oh, bam, global pandemic comes. Like if you've got the support, just go for it. If you've got, 12 teams from 14, or how many teams across the country that are keen, ready to go, have the finances ready to go to launch a second division, I reckon they should go for it. I think it's, I feel like I'm split on this. Like, I want it to work. I really want a second division, but is it viable? This is something, and I know this is how football runs in almost every country in the world, but in Australia, it's not how we do it in any sport at a really top level. And that's probably the hard thing for me. We don't really have a concept of promotion and relegation at an elite level in this country. Outside, we might do it at like a low NPL level in New South Wales, but at an elite level like this in Australia, it's just a foreign concept to us. And to get investors on board with the concept, it's going to be a challenge. But if they reckon they can do it, by all means, have a crack at it.
Well, and that's what the AFC are saying. They're saying they've done the financial modelling. They say they've accounted for flights. They've accounted for, if they go this or that, or, they've accounted for attendances, what they think will happen, for sponsorship, a salary cap kind of thing to keep things, manageable. And they think it's viable. They keep saying this is viable, and we're telling the FA that it's viable, and we're going to back it. This is our money that we're going to throw into it. And if we're willing to throw our money into it, let us throw our money into it. That's an interesting thing that the AAFC, they want to go. And I think that brings us to, I guess, if they're keen and they're ready, what's the best model? And so I think there's a couple floating around. AAFC, they want a home and away season, don't they? They want 14 teams, 16 teams, whatever it is, 12. They want to go with that, play a home and away season, and let the clubs kind of, just go. Let them do it and see what happens. But the other alternative seems to be, well, at least James Johnson and FA keep talking about this Champions League style thing. I'm not sure on that. I think that's a great idea for getting into the second division. I think the NPL kind of way that it could work best is, you've got your NPLs and the top two teams qualify for the end of season, national finals, and they all play off to get to, the two teams that could, get promoted into the second division. But I don't know if it's the best way to go about a second division, especially if there's no promotion from that into the A-League. I'm not saying there needs to be promotion relegation between the A-League and the second division straight away either. I think that should wait 2 or 3 years, let the league settle and make sure it is viable before you let that happen. But yeah, what are your thoughts on how, the format?
Yeah, I think the FA's proposal of the Champions League is just garbage. Like, the Champions League in Europe, you play 6 games in a group stage, and if you're out, you might get a chance to the Europa League. But like, talking about teams, they'll probably only play about 6 games, and if they get to the knockout stage, they might play another 6. Like, it's not enough games. I think it's got to be a home and away season. It's got to be legit incredible. You need, if you have 12 games, if you're gonna have 12 teams, play the 22 games. Like, it's not that hard. It's got to be legit. It can't be a glorified knockout competition.
And that's the same arguments we have against the W League and against the Youth League, right? Like, the W League, for some reason, they only go to 12 games. Like, they don't even play the full home and away, and it just it makes mockery of the competition. Really, it's not that hard to organise another 4 games. Same with the youth league. They've kind of butchered that. A couple of seasons ago, the youth league was kind of cracking, and you had a proper home and away competition with all the A-League.
They moved to a conference, didn't they?
Yeah, they moved to conferences, and it's just killed what excitement and any, there's surely still good players, but I think they're heading over to the NPL teams, and it's just, I don't think it's the best way to go. I'm with you there that this Champions League conference system, get rid of that. Play a home and away season. Get it to 14, 16 teams. Have a somewhere between 22 and 30 game league, and that's going to create actual competition to make a second division, because that's the big reason for a second division, right? It's about competition. The closed shop A-League, if someone loses, they came last and they just pick up again next season. There's no punishment. Now they're trying to introduce this punishment, but you put a second division in and all of a sudden there's a bit of competition for places. You add that with a transfer system where, second division clubs can loan a player, instead of Luka Ivanovic, who was struggling for game time at Sydney FC, going to Brisbane Roar where maybe he'll get game time, or Mirza Muradovic, who went from Brisbane Roar, couldn't get game time. He went to Wellington Phoenix. He got a bit of game time, but then struggled. And then there's nowhere for these kind of players to go when they don't quite cut it once or twice. Put a second division in, and hell yeah, you get a Mirza Muradovic in a second division side, and he's able to build some form. He's able to play week in, week out. That the A-League club benefits, the second division club benefits. There's competition for places. And then once you start adding in that promotion relegation, if this second division can actually grow and get strong, there's challenge, there's an actual battle for places in the A-League. And then, if you play well, what if you're not contracted to an A-League club, but you play for Sydney Olympic and they're in the second division, and you have an outstanding season as a 19-year-old, and Sydney FC and Melbourne Victory, they're after your signature, and they're paying these second division clubs transfer fees for young players. That's what then starts to make it financially viable, is you actually start to see this economy happen. And that's why the FA are trying to get this transfer system going. But I think it works perfectly with setting up a proper second division to create this economy of football in Australia. And then your NPLs are feeding into that, and then that's feeding up to the A-League, and your A-League is your premier competition, and you've got the FA Cup, alongside that. All of a sudden, they help grease each other, they're cogs that turn each other. When they're working independently, you've got a broken clock,
And we don't have a lack of players in this country to make a second division viable. You can make the argument. A lot of people like to, the quality's not there. I said, because the players don't have the opportunity to get into that top bracket of quality players. You open up more options, like you say, the second division expansion teams. You have more teams there. You have more places in teams for players to compete for. You say if we brought in 4 new expansion sides, with squads of 23 or whatever, sweet, that's 16, 17 players in that each team. You're looking at over almost 70 players that'll fill into those teams from maybe teams from NPL, which means players from the lower level of an NPL might be able to bump up and get a gig then. And
I mean, look at some of the players we've got in good Australian youngsters who have gone over to Europe and are now playing for Belgian third tier sides and Portuguese fourth tier sides, and it's ridiculous. Like, we're just throwing away these footballers and send them over to Europe, and they're just floating in these nothing leagues, which, to be honest, if we had national second division, our NPL is probably just as good as the Portuguese fourth or third tier. The fact is that their Portuguese teams can pay them better than an NPL side can, because an NPL side's in this kind of competition it's not really going anywhere. Put them in a second division team or an NPL that can get into a second division, and with an economy that we can keep these players and actually develop them in Australia and get them into A-League teams and build Australian football properly. I really hate seeing, this Australian 17-year-old signs for, Ukrainian 8th tier side, to what's the point? I don't quite get that. We're just losing all of that talent in Australia, and that's really disappointing too, which I think second division really will play a huge part in fostering Australian talent.
Yeah, just, like I've said, if they've got the money, they're willing to do it, give it a go. If it doesn't work out, well, at least they tried. But I think it can be a hit. I think it can be a hit, and it might be a struggle at the start, but I think it can work. It's just, like I said, it's just so foreign, the concept of promotion and relegation, but I think it can work.
And then you're looking at, I mean, we've got some A-League clubs that don't have stadiums, Western United. We've got A-League clubs like Brisbane Roar, who are a huge team in Australian football, and they moved out of Suncorp because it's too big for them, and they're going to Redcliffe. And Redcliffe holds how many? Like 8,000?
I think about 13, 14,000.
Okay, you look at that, and with a little bit of money and work, places like Marconi Stadium can hold 7,000 to 8,000. We're not expecting this second division.
I think Marconi can hold that. It just, they haven't had anything like that in years.
Well, that's right. There are clubs. You look at South Melbourne with the Lakeside Stadium. It can hold a decent crowd. You look at quite a few of these clubs that own their own grounds. Sydney Olympic play out of the old...
they play Belmore Sports Ground.
Yep. You've got Sydney United, who have their own ground in Sydney as well. Yep. These are decent little fields. Look, they're nothing amazing and could absolutely do with some work, but no one's expecting crowds of, plus 10,000 at a second division game. Nowhere in the world, is really getting plus 10,000 at second division games outside the top 5 nations, Even
outside those top 5 nations, I think it's only really England and Germany.
Yeah, that's right.
That are probably, I could be wrong, but like I know confidently they're pulling over 10K. But
and heck, our A-League teams aren't really cracking 10K all that much at the moment.
So what do you want? The haters, they're not going to give crowds. I'm like, well, what's a good crowd?
Yeah, that's it. If these clubs are getting 2, 3, up to 6,000 through the gates for a second division game, that's awesome kind of stuff. That's money. I think there's this thing. We're just scared to have this go, and I fear that if the FA half-ass it, if they go in and say, oh, we'll do this when we're not ready for this proper home and away comp, they're just going to kill it, and then it will fail, because anything you go in with half-heartedly is going to fail. If you don't put in the effort, you're not going to see the success. It's the old coach's trick, coach's advice for tackling. You go in soft, you're going to get hurt. If you go in for a tackle without an actual drive to win that ball, you're not going to win it. They're going to win it. You're going to end up on the sideline. And I fear that's what's happening with Australian football here. If we go in soft on a second division, the whole system's going to end up hurt. We're going to end up on the sidelines, and it'll take us another 10 years to have another crack. Whereas if we actually have a proper go in properly with 100% effort to make this work with the goal of winning that, making it a real success, we'll do it. I really do believe that we've got the talent, we've got the drive, we've got the market to make a full Australian kind of system work. And I just really want to see it happen.
I feel like, there's always meetings. The AAFC is always having these meetings, and they're always talking. Just pull your fingers out, stop the talking. We want you to do something. Say, we're going to start this comp 2023. We're calling for applications to join this comp. Just do it. Just do it. Stop talking about it. We're sick of talking about it. We want it to happen. We want to talk about it happening, not about what could happen.
Yeah, absolutely. With all of that said, we're both on board. We're really hoping this happens. We've had a little bit of a chat it's probably about 8 or 9 months ago now that we talked about teams that we'd like to see in a second division. Do your teams kind of change much? Who are the headline? If you were to say maybe 4 or 5 headline teams to launch, what teams do you think would get people excited? Go, yeah, I want to go to a second division match because this team's playing.
New Zealand Knights. No. I think, at the start, I think you were more picking off the teams off performance-based merit. I think at the start you want to get big wham names in the start. You want people to be like, I know this team. I remember this team from the NSL days. I'd go watch a game with them. And I think South Melbourne, love them or hate them, I think they're a big name. They catch your eye, and I'd love to go watch a South Melbourne game. I'd love to go watch them lose. I've never seen them, but I don't know if I like them. But I think South Melbourne, someone like that, be a big name hitter. Someone like Marconi or Sydney United or Sydney Olympic. Just name like 3 Sydney teams. So maybe not, but like they're popular names that people know. And I think someone like probably not Brisbane Strikers because they're in all sorts right now, I think. But maybe someone like is it Lions FC, Brisbane Lions, or Brisbane City, a Brisbane team that have performed in the NSL. Someone like Adelaide City or West Adelaide. Actually, no, I think West Adelaide went broke. Or was that Adelaide?
Yeah, Adelaide City. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, one of those Adelaide teams from the old NSL days. I think capturing a few of those teams. Oh, Wollongong Wolves. I think Wollongong Wolves, if they weren't to get through an expansion team, I think they would be extremely popular. And I'd like it to be for or an opportunity for teams from outside the big cities, not from teams outside the big cities to get a run. But I think at the start, it's got to be well-backed teams, probably well-recognised teams. But I don't think, it can't stop a small team like, I think there was a team like Wynnum from the Brisbane that, I didn't really know they existed until they were announced as one of the partners in the AAFC. So I wouldn't be opposed to someone small like that. But I think, a lot of the teams have to be, recognisable names for it to be a good hit at the start.
Yeah, I think you've got to go with those big names, your Adelaide Cities. You've got to go with your South Melbournes and your Sydney Uniteds. Definitely to start, they're huge teams. But the rest of the team should be the teams that are there on merit. I think maybe not those little kind of smaller town teams, unless, hey, they're actually punching above their weight in their respective NPL. I think definitely to start, you need those teams that have the talent and who have the resources. And then I've got no problem with then opening up those NPLs to promote into the second division so that if your team has the drive and you've got the resources and you've got the luck of, winning the matches when you need it, and you can prove that you can cut it, then promotion and relegation should start to happen, and we should start to see those teams. I don't think there's any merit in putting a Bathurst team in a second division because, heck, our local NPL team are down in NPL 4 and barely won a game last season, and they don't deserve to be anywhere near a second division kind of thing. But if they, if the chance was there and they got their act together and they actually started to work their way up, I'm all for that. That's what I want to see. I want to see this opening of a football pyramid. And I think starting with a proper second division allows that just to start happening. You start getting these conversations, you start getting this competitiveness, you start getting other teams showing, hey, we're good enough to be in this, let us have a crack. And football will take off. It really will. I think we're just holding ourselves back at the moment. But I think, if I was to pick 4 absolute headline teams, I'd probably go South Melbourne, Adelaide City, Sydney United, and I'd have to go Marconi.
You're trying to think of someone that wasn't from Sydney, but you thought,
No, they're the big teams. Maybe I've been a bit harsh on some other teams down in Melbourne, but they'd be the big names, and that'd attract. Everyone's looking forward to South Melbourne taking on Melbourne City in the FFA Cup. That's going to be unreal, and good chance just for South Melbourne to put their money where their mouth is, and they talk a big game. So what they got, we want to see that.
Let's see if
we
that
want to
10,000 supporters will show up to that game like they do every week.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think that's a pretty good chat about a second division, the possibilities, what format it might look at. And I think that this has been a nice kind of episode, and we're getting close to the 50-minute mark. And so if you've stuck around this long, good job. Again, hopefully you're enjoying this if you're listening on our new podcast. And so we're hoping to maybe make this a bit more of a feature. And so if you have enjoyed, make sure to subscribe on whatever podcasting kind of platform you've found us on, hopefully Spotify and things like that. And if you've watched here on YouTube as well, a little bit different to what we normally do, but make sure to leave a like. And if you haven't already, subscribe. We're getting close to 300, and the content's just going to keep coming as we get towards a new season. We're excited for that, and we're going to keep doing stuff. So
for our YouTube friends, I will put in some timestamps, because obviously we did talk for a lot. So if you want to get to a certain topic, you can skip straight to that, because I'm not the kind of person to get you to stick around for 50 minutes just for the algorithm. Speaking of algorithm, please subscribe and like if you're on YouTube.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure to chat again with you, Bradley. And we hope you enjoy, and you're getting ready to fire up your couch to watch some more Aussie content on Paramount Plus and Channel 10 and 10 Plus, and all the different places you're going to find it. We're excited. So we'll catch you later, Couch Critics.